Mary Meet Seth, Annie here. I couldn't wait to get my teeth into the last video you put out on spellcasting and put out a video response. I love the kinds of questions that you asked and loved watching the process of your thinking and your questioning. So you've tempted me to do a video response, and I have a feeling you're probably going to do that lots. I really enjoy your videos. I like seeing a young person who is thinking and following really what I consider to be the old ways. So very interested in the videos that you are sharing with us. Spellcasting. A little bit from my experience. Now my experience is as important when I was trained in the 70s, which was very traditional, and also my life experiences and what they have and have not reinforced from that early training. And I had very wise teachers. But as I've aged, there are things that I have experienced differently and come to my own opinions on. One of the things that has not changed one iota from my earliest training of the most simple spell is the responsibility of spell working and how we go about it. If we know, and we do, if we are sincerely following this path, we know we will effect change. We aren't thinking we might. We know we can effect change. And we can effect change at all different kinds of creative and destructive levels. If we don't know that for a fact, there is no reason to be even doing the simplest of spells. But even when working the absolute most simple of spells, the first baby spell I ever did under the guidance of my first priests, it indeed ended with, "And it harmed none, and to the good of all." And that's vanished almost completely from the modern interpretation, this neo version of Wicca that is out there. And I think it's because of a lack of understanding of the power of the Rede, what it entitles you to in the way of living your life, and what it teaches you about responsibility. The statement, "and it harmed none, and to the good of all," which is sometimes said as to the greater good. I was taught to the good of all, but it's also to the greater good. It is aligned with a true, deep understanding of the Rede. You know, I get very upset when I see neo-Wiccans constantly saying that the Rede is a guideline. Those of us who are taught the Rede at the feet of our elders do not see it as a guideline. We see it as an absolute law, the only guiding law of our life. Because the Rede is about love. She tells us her law is love. Coming from that place, which is a place of respect for ourselves and for everything which has existed, does exist, will exist at every level of creation and energy. No matter the size of our spell, we're responsible for it to the nth degree. Now a spell where we put out, our intent is, I desire this, I want to manifest this. And then we end it with, "and it harmed none, and to the good of all." It is not weakening the spell. And anyone who thinks it is doesn't understand the nature of the Rede or of spell work. When we do spell work in traditional Wicca, we are aligned with the elements. We are working with them to manifest the change we desire. We are working with our guardians. The guardians are the hinge point, in my experience, of spell work on the "and it harmed none." They partner with us and they ally with us, but their loyalty is to our deities, to our gods. They're almost fair weather partners in that they stand with us steadfastly when our intent is in right relationship to the greater good. And they will abandon us at the drop of the hat if we are either insincere in our petition that it harm none, or if we are intentionally doing a working where we know we are doing it from a place of selfishness. Now, spell working and the entitlement, the gift of manifesting the change that we desire. Powerful, powerful stuff. But with that comes the responsibility of not harming. Now, it doesn't mean we never harm. Life is about creation and destruction. Things change, things transform. You could say transformation is harm because it changed something from what it originally was into something else. Spell work cannot be about not harming, in the sense of not changing, not impacting, not in the end making the difference we want it to make. But it is about not creating at the cost of destruction. In other words, if there are more than one ways to go about things, then we seek the avenue that doesn't create destruction. Our gain, our desires are not an entitlement to take from the energy of another or the balance of the universe. And to me, that's what spell working is all about. It's not wimpy. And I know what you mean, because I've been accused of being wimpy when people know how carefully I spell and what I go through, and that I always use what some folks will say is a disclaimer to opt out of. No, it is not. It is acknowledging the full power of what we can do. And if we are part of this religion, we do not want to gain at the inexcusable expense of another. Because there are many ways to attain what we need and what we desire. And by pinpointing a focus and saying, I want, and not thinking about the greater picture, and not aligning our partners, the guardians, to assist us in our pure intent, we're denying the spiritual value of what we do. We can do what we do and harm right and left with no thought, because we do have the power to make that change. However, the spiritual side of who we are teaches us that while we have that right, we have the responsibility that comes with it. And it harm none, and to the good of all, for everything I have ever done in the way of spell work, from the smallest spell to the greatest working. You talked about change, creation following the path of least resistance. And I think your thoughts were that if that were the case, when we spell, the easiest path to manifestation is sometimes going to, I was thinking of it from your description as being the bulldozer that just plows through and accomplishes what we want and just renders things and splits through things and tears things apart. I would suggest that the path of least resistance is the one which impacts things the least. So the path of least resistance is not going to be put it out there as your manifestation and it will be so no matter what happens, and it will just kind of like put its way through, creating wreck and havoc as it goes along. I say that the path of least resistance has a lot to do not just with energetic resistance of what you're up against, but it has to do with spiritual balance and spiritual resistance. Magic finds its way the easiest way. And I would say, my experience, the depth of what I've learned over the years is that the path of least resistance is the one aligned with right purpose, aligned with our gods, with our guardians working with us and partnering with us. It's almost like a parting of the seas that makes things happen when it's being done in accord with that balance. I would suggest to consider that any act of manifestation is an act of destruction. It's popular to say it's an act of creation, but it comes out of something. You don't create out of nothing. Something has to give way to make something new happen. And we don't always know exactly what path that will follow. There is a little bit when we do spell work that is about the putting it out there and releasing of it. There's a little bit of chaos magic in every spell that we do, which is one of the reasons why, and it harm none, and to the greater good of all, is so important. It doesn't make it wimpy. It actually acknowledges the fact that there is chaos energy at work here. No act of creation is without the act of destruction that is part of it. Transformation comes from something that is no longer the same afterwards. So my thoughts on, will there be little harm? Will there be great harm? What kind of harm happens in the process of even a well-wrought spell offered up in alignment with the gods, partnered with our guardians? There is still that we do not exactly know how it will manifest, what it will take to happen for it to manifest. And again, I come back to, if we have embraced the teachings of the Rede, and we are aligned with our guardians, and our pure intent is, without a doubt, to not effect unnecessary destruction, harm, then it will be so. All very interesting, this thing that we do called working spells. Aligning yourself with your guardians and sincerely offering this spell, knowing you have a right to what you're putting out there. If you don't feel that strong, you have a right to what you are manifesting, you need to back off from this spell. You only do spell work, great or small, when you know of your entitlement. When you know the avenues you could go through to reach this result, and you've explored them all, and you've decided this is how I'm going to put this out there, then you offer it up. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Some folks will think, oh, I'm a dud spellcaster. It didn't work. I'm not talented. What kind of a witch am I? No, if it was done appropriately and you did it right, it may not have worked out well because it should not have. As simple as that. It is not all about us. There is a certain aspect of magic, which is we cannot ever know it all or know enough. And that's mystery. And it's why, it makes life exciting and exhilarating, and never know what's going to happen around the corner, and you open up to whatever is so huge out there that we call mystery. We cannot grasp it. Magic is related to mystery. It's not separate from it. You can never know the wholeness. You have to release yourself to the mystery when you're doing an act of magic. I hope that gives you some different, maybe a different thing or two to ponder when you think about spellcasting and the power of spellcasting. And if anyone ever says to you that using and it harm none, and to the greater good, or to the good of all, is copping out or backing off, oh no, it is acknowledging the power of what we do, and at the same time acknowledging our relationship to the gods in the way we go about manifesting change. So I think you can guess that my thoughts about Marion Green's comment that we can never not harm is I agree with her 100%, 100,000,000%. Change, creation, destruction, at some level is always going to harm something. It takes something, it ends something, it creates something new. And that's fine. That is the way it is. And it is why it's what we believe in. It's who we are as witches. It's what we connect to at the greater energetic level. And it's also why we know we can do what we can do. There's passion regarding this subject. There has to be, because it involves everything that we are and everything that we believe in. It's about creation and chaos and change and transformation, and no spell is tiny. We are changing existence with every spell that we do. And if existence doesn't change as we thought it did, or even if it does not change at all, then more than likely it is because it was not meant to. Sometimes when something doesn't work out, we learn later why. Some experience of life or maturing will teach us, oh, that's why that didn't go the way I thought it would. And the thing about mystery, though, is sometimes we never know why. It is what it is. We have to accept it. That's part of the mystery. It's part of the spirituality of what we do. I can get carried away on the passion of this because this is what we find we have in common. This understanding of this flow of creative and destructive energy, the chaos of existence that we are so gloriously a part of. If you had one or two new things to think of out of this, then I will be very glad that I took the time to do this response, and I have a feeling that I will be responding to others of your videos going forward. I wish you mirth and reverence. Merry part.